Mastering your reactions. Introduction. We've all experienced moments when our emotions seem to take over, whether it's anger boiling up unexpectedly, jealousy sneaking in, or greed tugging at our desires. These feelings can feel all-consuming, as if they're controlling us, pulling us into reactions we later regret. But these emotions don't originate from some uncontrollable force outside of us. They come from deep within, hidden in the unconscious mechanisms of our minds. With the right approach, we can learn to master these emotions and prevent them from disturbing our inner peace. The key lies in one simple but profound practice: stopping the mind. When we pause the endless stream of thoughts and focus purely on something as basic as our breath, something remarkable happens. The power these emotions hold over us begins to fade. Anger, jealousy, greed, they all require an active mind to survive. When the mind is quiet and centered, these emotions lose their grip. By honing the ability to still the mind, we can unlock a level of peace and control that shields us from being swayed by life's ups and downs. In this exploration of mastering consciousness, we'll go beyond just calming the mind. We'll dive deep into spiritual principles that have been passed down through the teachings of enlightened figures like Buddha, Jesus, and other great masters. Their wisdom shows us that understanding and mastering the mind is not just about managing stress or feeling calm, it's about connecting with the universal laws that govern both our inner selves and the world around us. By aligning with these laws, we tap into a deeper level of awareness where nothing, no external event, no negative emotion, can disturb our inner balance. As we journey together through this understanding, you'll learn how to harness your consciousness, transforming your life in ways you might not have thought possible. The answers you seek are already within you. It's time to unlock them. Chapter 1. The role of the unconscious mind in negative emotions. We've all had moments when anger, jealousy, or other negative emotions seem to appear out of nowhere, hijacking our mood and our behavior. One minute you're calm, the next you're caught in a whirlwind of emotion. It can feel as though these emotions control us, as though they are an unstoppable force that takes over, leaving us powerless. But here's the truth that not many realize. These emotions don't come from some external source. They stem from deep within our unconscious minds. And once we understand this, we can begin the journey to mastering our consciousness so that nothing disturbs our peace. The unconscious mind is a complex, hidden realm where much of our emotional baggage is stored. It's where past experiences, unresolved fears, and automatic reactions live. Think of it as the basement of your mind, full of stored-away emotions that you may not even be aware of, but that bubble up to the surface in moments of stress or discomfort. When you suddenly feel overwhelmed with anger or jealousy, it's often because something deep in the unconscious mind has been triggered. These emotions are like echoes from below, rising up from this dark, hidden space. What makes the unconscious mind so powerful is that it operates largely in the background, beyond our direct awareness. That's why you can sometimes feel like these emotions catch you off guard, like they've emerged out of thin air. But they are always lurking beneath the surface, waiting for the right circumstances to activate them. This is why you might react with irritation or jealousy, even when the situation doesn't seem to warrant such a strong response. The unconscious mind is reacting to old patterns, past wounds, and ingrained beliefs, not to the present reality. This is where the real challenge lies. The unconscious mind operates in what we can metaphorically call darkness. It's not evil or malicious, but it is unexamined. It's unknown, unlit territory. And just like a room left in the dark for too long, it gathers dust, cobwebs, and shadows that can seem overwhelming when suddenly exposed. Negative emotions like anger and jealousy thrive in this darkness because without awareness, they can run rampant, unchecked, and unnoticed until they surface in ways that disrupt our peace. However, the darkness of the unconscious mind is not something to fear. In fact, it's very much like ignorance. It's simply the absence of light. And just as ignorance can be cured by knowledge, the darkness of the unconscious mind can be illuminated by consciousness. Once we shine a light into these hidden corners, What seemed overwhelming or uncontrollable begins to dissolve. Awareness, or consciousness, is the light that dispels this darkness. This brings us to one of the most powerful analogies we can use when discussing the unconscious mind and consciousness: light and darkness. Just as light naturally eliminates darkness, consciousness naturally dispels unconsciousness. You don't need to battle darkness directly. You simply need to introduce light and the darkness vanishes. The same is true for the unconscious mind. You don't need to fight anger, jealousy, or any other negative emotion by repressing it or avoiding it. You only need to bring awareness to it. When you become fully conscious of your emotions, they lose their ability to control you. Think about this for a moment. If you walk into a dark room, your instinct isn't to try to push the darkness away with your hands. Instead, you simply turn on the light. Darkness cannot exist in the presence of light because it's not a force of its own. It's simply the absence of illumination. In the same way, unconsciousness is not a presence in itself, but the absence of awareness. When we learn to bring the light of consciousness into our unconscious mind, the negative emotions that seem so overpowering begin to dissolve on their own. This is why mastering your consciousness is so transformative. When you develop the ability to observe your emotions consciously, without judgment, you can prevent yourself from being swept away by them. If you feel anger rising, instead of letting it take control, you can stop, breathe, and observe it. Where is this anger coming from? What is it trying to tell me? Just by asking these questions, you shine the light of awareness onto the emotion. You begin to see that the anger is not you, but a reaction from your unconscious mind, a reaction you can choose not to follow. By practicing this over time, you become less and less reactive to external circumstances. Your internal world stabilizes because you are no longer at the mercy of emotions that flare up from the unconscious. You learn to live in the light of awareness, where you can calmly navigate even the most challenging situations without being disturbed by what's happening around you. This is the essence of mastering your consciousness. The idea that true serenity originates within, from conquering your inner world, is emphasized in many spiritual teachings, whether they be from Buddha, Jesus, or other enlightened figures. For instance, Buddha talked a lot about how attachment and unconscious responses are the source of suffering. You can break away from the grip of your unconscious tendencies and attachments by being conscious of them. Jesus described the kingdom of heaven as existing within, a condition of awareness where one is at peace with God, away from the chaos of the outside world. The path to mastering your consciousness is not an easy one, but it is incredibly rewarding. It requires you to confront the hidden aspects of yourself, to bring light to the parts of your unconscious mind that you've kept in the dark. But as you do, you'll find that the emotions and reactions that once disturbed your peace start to lose their power. You become the master of your inner world, rather than being ruled by it. And this mastery changes everything. When nothing can disturb your inner peace, you are free to live fully, to love deeply, and to engage with life from a place of strength and calm. You begin to realize that true power doesn't come from controlling your environment. It comes from controlling your consciousness. In the end, the journey of mastering your consciousness is about becoming the light in your own life, illuminating the darkness of the unconscious mind and dispelling the emotions that once held you back. As you learn to live more consciously, nothing will be able to disturb the peace that comes from within. Chapter 2. Observing emotions instead of reacting. We've all been there. Someone says something hurtful, and before we even have time to think, we feel a surge of anger rising within us. Our instinct is to react, to defend ourselves, to fight back. It feels like the natural response, doesn't it? But what if I told you that reacting in this way is not only unproductive, but it also keeps you trapped in a cycle of emotional upheaval, constantly disturbed by external circumstances? The key to mastering your consciousness and ensuring that nothing disturbs your peace lies in learning how to observe your emotions rather than react to them. Mindfulness, in its essence, is the practice of observing the present moment without judgment. When it comes to emotions, mindfulness invites you to step back from the intensity of the feeling and simply witness it as it arises. Instead of allowing yourself to be swept away by anger, frustration, or jealousy, you become a neutral observer. You watch the emotion unfold without identifying with it. This practice might seem simple in theory, but in practice, it's one of the most powerful tools you can develop on your path to mastering your consciousness. Let's take the example of anger. Imagine you're in a situation where someone insults you. Instinctively, your mind zeroes in on the insult itself, and your body reacts. Your heart rate increases, your muscles tense, and your mind races with thoughts of retaliation. This is the typical chain reaction we all experience. The problem is that in moments like these, we are entirely focused on the external cause, the person who insulted us. We blame them for our emotional state. We think, if they hadn't said that, I wouldn't be feeling this way. And so we react, we argue, we yell, we defend ourselves. But this reactive cycle only deepens the emotional disturbance. The more we focus on the external cause of our emotions, the more control we give to external factors over our inner peace. We essentially allow other people and situations to dictate how we feel. And this is where mindfulness offers a different path, one that leads to true mastery over our emotions. What if instead of reacting, you paused for a moment the next time someone insults you? What if instead of lashing out, you simply observed the anger rising within you? This doesn't mean suppressing the anger or pretending it doesn't exist. It means acknowledging the emotion and watching it, much like a scientist observing a natural phenomenon. You might notice the heat in your body, the tightness in your chest, or the rush of thoughts in your mind. By observing the physical and mental effects of the anger, you begin to separate yourself from it. You realize that the anger is not you. It's just a passing emotion, something temporary that arose because of an external trigger. This shift in perspective is crucial. Instead of focusing on the external cause, what the other person said or did, you turn your attention inward. You ask yourself, why am I reacting this way? What is it within me that is being triggered by this situation? When you do this, you begin to understand that the true cause of your emotion is not the insult itself, but the deeper layers of unresolved feelings, insecurities, or beliefs that lie beneath the surface. This is where real growth happens. Instead of wasting energy reacting to the outside world, you use the situation as an opportunity to explore your inner world. The power of observation is that it creates space between the stimulus, the insult, and your response, the anger. In that space, you have the freedom to choose how to respond, or whether to respond at all. You might decide that the insult doesn't require a response because it doesn't actually affect your sense of self. Or you might choose to respond calmly, without the emotional charge that usually accompanies anger. Either way, you remain in control of your emotions, rather than letting them control you. This practice doesn't just apply to anger, it applies to all emotions. Whether it's jealousy, fear, or frustration, the same principle holds true. Observe the emotion without reacting to it. When you can observe your emotions in this way, you no longer need to be disturbed by them. You become the master of your internal world, and the external world loses its power to dictate how you feel. But let's be clear, this is not about suppressing emotions or denying them. Observing emotions is not the same as ignoring them. In fact, it's the opposite. Observing means fully acknowledging the emotion without judgment, without labeling it as good or bad. It's about giving yourself permission to feel the emotion without being overwhelmed by it. When you do this, something magical happens. The emotion begins to lose its intensity. Like a wave rising and falling in the ocean, the emotion passes through you, but it doesn't knock you over. You stay grounded, steady, and undisturbed. By practicing this regularly, you'll start to notice a significant shift in how you experience life. Situations that used to trigger strong emotional reactions will no longer have the same effect. You'll find that you can remain calm in the face of challenges, and that your inner peace becomes less dependent on external circumstances. This is the essence of mastering your consciousness. You create a stable inner foundation that cannot be shaken by the fluctuations of the outside world. As you continue to practice observing your emotions, you'll also develop a deeper understanding of yourself. You'll begin to see patterns in your emotional reactions, and with this awareness, you can start to heal the root causes of your emotional triggers. This healing process is transformative because it frees you from the unconscious patterns that have been running your life. Instead of being driven by automatic reactions, you can consciously choose how to navigate your emotional landscape. In the end, observing emotions instead of reacting to them is about reclaiming your power. It's about realizing that you are not a victim of your emotions or your circumstances. You have the ability to choose how you respond to every situation, and with that choice comes freedom. This is what it means to master your consciousness. Nothing can disturb your inner peace because you are in control of your inner world. And when you master your inner world, the outer world becomes a reflection of your calm, steady, and empowered state of being. Chapter 3. Redirecting Energy. We often view emotions like anger or desire as things that simply happen to us, sudden surges that seem out of our control. They hit hard, overwhelming us in the moment, and we either react or suppress them, thinking that's our only choice. But what if I told you that these emotions are actually potent sources of energy, waiting to be harnessed? Instead of letting this energy explode outward in reactions or actions we later regret, we can learn to redirect it inward, turning what feels like chaos into fuel for growth and self-mastery. This is what it means to master your consciousness, not suppressing or denying emotion, but transforming it into something that strengthens you from within. Let's start with a closer look at anger. When anger flares up, it's intense. Your body feels charged, your heart races, and your mind floods with thoughts of confrontation or retaliation. In that moment, the anger can feel uncontrollable, like a fire that must burn itself out through some kind of action, yelling, arguing, or even physical expression. But what's really happening is that a tremendous amount of energy has been activated within you. Think of this energy as raw power. Most people, unaware of its potential, waste it on external actions, allowing the energy to scatter in bursts of heated words or impulsive decisions. This is where we lose our power. The same is true of sexual desire. It's another form of potent energy that can consume our thoughts and drive our behavior. When we experience this desire, our mind often fixates on external targets, the object of our attraction, the person who arouses these feelings. This outward focus causes the energy to dissipate through fantasies or actions that ultimately leave us feeling unfulfilled. Again, the energy is spent without being fully harnessed for anything meaningful. But here's the transformative secret. These emotions, whether anger, desire, or any other intense feeling, are not inherently bad. They are simply energy, and energy in its purest form is neutral. It can be directed in any way you choose. The key to mastering your consciousness is learning how to take this powerful energy and redirect it inward, where it can be transformed and used to fuel your personal growth, insight, and inner strength. When you feel anger or desire rising, instead of letting the energy explode outward, pause and become aware of it. Notice how much energy is coursing through your body and mind in that moment. This is a crucial step because once you recognize the energy, you can choose what to do with it. Rather than allowing it to escape through reactive behaviors, imagine drawing that energy inward, like pulling back a force that was about to be unleashed. This is not suppression, it's redirection. By drawing the energy inward, you begin a process of transformation. Think of it like a cycle, a circle of consciousness. When energy is directed outward, it scatters and loses its potency. But when you redirect that same energy inward, it doesn't dissipate. Instead, it fuels your inner power, creating a cycle that builds upon itself. The more energy you redirect inward, the stronger your inner focus and consciousness become. This is the true power of the energy circle. Imagine this energy moving in a loop within you, constantly feeding your awareness, your presence, and your consciousness. As you continue to direct energy inward, rather than letting it explode outward, you create an internal cycle that sustains and strengthens you. This process turns what would have been a moment of emotional turmoil into an opportunity for deep personal growth. The energy that could have been wasted is now building your inner power, making you more grounded, centered, and clear-minded. This process isn't limited to anger or desire. Any intense emotion, fear, excitement, even joy, can be used in the same way. All emotions carry energy, and that energy can either be scattered or directed inward to fuel your consciousness. The choice is always yours. As you practice this redirection of energy, you'll begin to notice significant changes in how you experience life. Situations that used to trigger strong emotional reactions will no longer have the same hold over you. Not because you've suppressed the emotion, but because you've learned to harness its energy for something far more valuable, your own growth and mastery. You'll find yourself feeling more in control, more at peace, and more aligned with your true self. This is the beauty of the energy circle. It's a self-sustaining system. The more energy you direct inward, the more power you have to continue this process. Over time, your consciousness becomes sharper, and your ability to remain undisturbed by external events increases. You'll find that emotions no longer throw you off balance. Instead, they become a source of strength and clarity, helping you to navigate life with greater ease and wisdom. To fully integrate this practice, it's important to recognize that every emotion is an opportunity. Whether it's anger, desire, fear, or joy, each emotional surge is a gift of energy. By shifting your perspective from seeing emotions as something to be managed or controlled to seeing them as fuel for your consciousness, you step into a new level of mastery over your life. This is the essence of the consciousness cycle, turning every experience into a source of inner power. Ultimately, mastering your consciousness is not about suppressing or denying your feelings. It's about learning to make the most of everything that comes up inside of you. It's about understanding that, unless you let it, nothing, not even people, circumstances, or emotions, has the ability to upset your inner tranquility. You can live with full mastery, unaffected by the outside world, by refocusing your energy inside, which builds an unbreakable foundation and a steady flow of strength from within. You'll realize how strong you really are as you keep practicing this energy rerouting technique, not because you can manipulate the outside world, but rather because you've mastered the inner world. To live in a state of calm, clarity, and empowerment, where nothing can disrupt the circle of consciousness you have established within yourself, is the ultimate goal of mastering your consciousness. Chapter 4. Breath Awareness as a Path to Mastery. In the chaos of everyday life, where thoughts race and emotions often feel overwhelming, finding a moment of true peace can seem elusive. The mind is constantly buzzing, jumping from one worry to another, from past regrets to future anxieties. This mental chatter can stir up powerful emotions, anger, stress, fear, that can disturb even the most grounded person. But what if I told you that you have a simple, accessible tool that can bring you back to a state of calm and clarity at any moment? That tool is your breath. The practice of breath awareness, or Anapan Yoga, is one of the most powerful yet simple methods for mastering your consciousness so that nothing disturbs your inner peace. Breath awareness, at its core, is the practice of focusing your attention on the natural rhythm of your breath as it enters and leaves your body. It might sound too simple to be effective, but the truth is that this practice holds profound power. Our breath is the most constant and reliable aspect of our existence. It is with us from the moment we are born until the moment we take our last breath. Yet, despite its presence, we rarely pay attention to it. We take it for granted, letting it flow unconsciously while our minds are busy elsewhere. However, once you bring your awareness to your breath, something incredible begins to happen. You create a space for mindfulness and stillness to enter. The ability of breath awareness to ground you in the here and now is what gives it its strength. The mind has a tendency to either focus on the past, analyzing events that have already occurred, or worry about potential future events. It is rarely completely present in the present moment. This is when the transforming power of breath awareness comes in. Your breath is constantly in the present, unlike your thoughts, which might stray for a very long time. You can ground yourself in the here and now by bringing your thoughts back to the present by paying attention to your breathing. Silencing the mental chatter that frequently feeds negative emotions, this small act of focus can have a profoundly relaxing effect. You cannot think and concentrate on your breathing at the same time, which is where the true power of breath awareness lies. Your thoughts start to disappear the instant you focus entirely on the feeling of air coming into your nostrils, filling your lungs and finally exiting your body. Your mind can only concentrate on one thing at a time, which is why this occurs. You may naturally halt the automatic thoughts that typically take up your attention by making the conscious decision to concentrate on your breathing. This produces a void, a period of silence during which your thoughts no longer control your emotions. This gap is where true mindfulness begins. As the chatter of your mind quiets, you become more aware of what is happening inside you, your emotions, sensations, and even the subtleties of your body's movements. The practice of breath awareness isn't about forcing thoughts to stop or trying to suppress emotions. Instead, it's about gently shifting your focus to something as simple and natural as breathing, and allowing that focus to bring a sense of calm. In this calm, you can observe your emotions without being controlled by them. You can notice when anger or frustration starts to rise, but instead of reacting, you remain centered, anchored by your breath. One of the most practical aspects of breath awareness is that it can be practiced anywhere at any time. Whether you're in the middle of a stressful workday, stuck in traffic, or dealing with a challenging situation at home, your breath is always with you. All it takes is a few moments of conscious attention to your breathing to bring your mind back to a state of calm. You don't need to be in a quiet room, sitting in meditation, or practicing yoga to reap the benefits of this technique. You can start right now. Close your eyes for a moment and take a deep breath in. Feel the air entering your body, and then feel it as it leaves. Do this a few times, and you'll already begin to notice a shift, a sense of relaxation washing over you, even if just slightly. Over time, as you continue practicing breath awareness, it becomes easier to catch yourself when your mind starts to race or when negative emotions start to stir. You'll develop a heightened sense of awareness, noticing the early signs of stress or anger before they take hold. This awareness gives you the power to stop the automatic flow of thoughts that usually accompany these emotions. Instead of spiraling into worry, frustration, or reaction, you simply return to your breath. And in doing so, you regain control over your emotional state. The beauty of breath awareness is its simplicity. Unlike more complex meditation practices or emotional regulation techniques, it doesn't require a lot of effort or skill. It's not about trying to achieve some state of enlightenment or perfection. It's about using what you already have, your breath, to create space for peace and mindfulness. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes to turn to your breath in moments of stress or emotional intensity. Eventually, it becomes second nature. You'll find that in the most difficult situations, you can remain calm and centered because you've trained your mind to return to the simplicity of your breath. As you deepen your practice, breath awareness becomes more than just a tool for calming the mind. It becomes a path to mastery over your consciousness. When nothing can disturb your breath, nothing can disturb your inner peace. By focusing on your breath, you learn to control your thoughts, silence your emotions, and create a state of calm that remains unshaken by the external world. This is the power of breath awareness. It's not about avoiding life's challenges or ignoring emotions, but about mastering the space between stimulus and response. In that space, through your breath, you find your true power. In the end, mastering your consciousness doesn't require complicated techniques or years of study. It starts with something as simple as paying attention to your breath. Through this practice, you can transform how you experience life, gaining the clarity, calm, and control you need to navigate whatever comes your way. So the next time you feel overwhelmed, just take a breath. In that breath lies the key to your mastery. Chapter 5. Developing Somatic Awareness. Consciousness is frequently conceived of as being connected to the mind, our ideas, convictions, and feelings. However, many people ignore the awareness of the body, which is a deeper aspect of consciousness. From the sun's warmth on our skin to the slight tenseness in our muscles during stressful situations, our bodies communicate with us on a daily basis. However, in the hustle and bustle of everyday life, we often overlook these feelings in favor of the never-ending flow of ideas in our minds. But what if we could connect to a more profound, present-moment level of consciousness and overcome repetitive thought patterns by focusing on our bodies? Somatic awareness is useful in this situation. The goal of somatic awareness is to change our focus from thoughts to feelings and from the mind to the body. It is the act of interacting with our bodily sensations in a non-intellectual, non-verbal manner. We can develop a more profound state of awareness by paying attention to the sensory data that our bodies supply, such as the sensation of cool water running down our neck while we drink, or the feel of the earth beneath our feet when we walk. This awareness keeps us anchored in the now and free from the mental noise that so frequently takes up our time. Take a moment to picture yourself strolling outside on a bright, warm day. Typically, you may have a lot on your mind, such as your to-do list, previous remarks, or concerns about the future. Even though you're wandering in this condition, you're not really there. Your mind is somewhere else while your body goes through the actions. Now visualize focusing on your body's feelings rather of allowing your thoughts to distract you. With every step, feel the pressure of your feet against the ground. As you move, pay attention to the minute changes in your muscles. Feel the cool breeze on your face and the warmth of the sun on your flesh. Simply feel these sensations without labeling them or giving them any thought. This is what somatic awareness is all about. You can instantly pull yourself out of your thoughts and into the here and now by focusing on your body's feelings. This is significant since overthinking contributes significantly to our stress and emotional instability. We lose ourselves in thinking cycles, reliving conversations, speculating about the worst-case scenarios, or scrutinizing every aspect of our life. However, there is no room for overthinking when you concentrate on the body. You cannot worry about tomorrow's meeting and feel your breath entering your lungs at the same time. The two are just incompatible, because it allows you to establish a place of tranquility free from the disruptions of habitual thought patterns. Somatic awareness is a very effective tool for mastering your consciousness. Consider anything as basic as food. Because we are preoccupied with discussions, television, or our own thoughts, most of us eat automatically and seldom notice the flavor of our meal. However, one of the most sensory-rich activities we engage in is eating. Try focusing entirely on the act of eating the next time you eat. As you chew, pay attention to the food's texture, the flavors that develop on your tongue, and the sensation of swallowing. Don't hurry. Keep your thoughts from wandering. Simply concentrate on the act of eating without assigning any labels to it, such as good or bad. By doing this, you are engaging in bodily awareness practice in addition to eating. This practice applies to nearly every aspect of life. Whether you're walking, showering, sitting, or even lying in bed, your body is constantly offering you the opportunity to tune in. Even something as simple as feeling the coolness of a tile floor under your feet can become a moment of deep mindfulness if you choose to focus on the sensation. The key is to observe these sensations without intellectualizing them. The moment you start thinking, "This floor feels cold," you've moved back into the realm of thought and away from pure awareness. Somatic awareness is about feeling without labeling, sensing without interpreting. It's a direct, raw experience of the body. The beauty of this practice is that it breaks the cycle of habitual thinking. Most of us are stuck in patterns of thought that repeat day after day. These patterns not only drain our energy, but also prevent us from experiencing the fullness of life. By developing somatic awareness, we create new pathways of consciousness that are rooted in the present moment, not in the mind's endless narratives. This shift allows us to experience life more fully, to be more in tune with ourselves and the world around us. Another powerful benefit of somatic awareness is its ability to help us manage emotions. When we're upset or stressed, our bodies react, our muscles tense, our breathing becomes shallow, and our posture changes. Often we don't even notice these physical responses because we're too caught up in the emotion itself. But by practicing somatic awareness, we can start to notice these subtle changes in our body. Instead of letting the emotion escalate, we can bring our attention to the body's sensations, perhaps noticing a tightness in the chest or a knot in the stomach, and simply observe. This act of observation helps diffuse the emotion's intensity, because much like with thoughts, when you observe a sensation without reacting to it, it loses its grip on you. Over time, developing somatic awareness helps you cultivate a deep sense of calm and resilience. You become more connected to your body and less controlled by your mind's habitual patterns. You begin to experience life not as a series of thoughts, but as a series of sensations, real, tangible moments that anchor you in the present. This shift in focus helps you remain undisturbed by external events. Instead of reacting to the world around you, you respond with a calm, grounded presence that comes from within. Chapter 6. Breaking the Cycle of Habitual Thinking. Developing inner awareness is no easy task. In fact, it can feel a lot like having a stiff neck. Imagine trying to look behind you, but your neck is so rigid that you simply can't turn your head. This stiffness is how our minds often behave, stuck in habitual patterns of thinking, constantly focused outward on the world around us. Our thoughts are like automatic responses, triggered by what's happening externally, and before we know it, we're caught up in the same old cycles: anger, worry, frustration, desire. Breaking free from these patterns requires more than just willpower. It requires retraining the mind to look inward. Our minds are naturally conditioned to focus on external stimuli. It's how we've been wired from a young age, always reacting to what's happening around us, identifying problems, and seeking solutions. Over time, this external focus becomes so ingrained that we rarely pause to reflect on what's happening within. We live in a reactive mode, moving from one thought or emotion to the next without ever questioning the source. But to master your consciousness and live a life undisturbed by external events, you must learn to break this cycle and turn your attention inward. One of the most common challenges in this process is realizing just how deeply ingrained these habitual thought patterns are. It's not just about the occasional flare-up of anger or stress. It's the way we've trained our minds to constantly seek problems or distractions. Our minds love to be busy, jumping from one thought to the next, often without any clear purpose. This constant mental activity keeps us focused on the surface level of our experiences, preventing us from accessing the deeper awareness that lies within. To break this cycle, you need to start observing your thoughts and emotions with curiosity instead of judgment. This shift in mindset is crucial. Often, when we notice that we're angry or stressed, we immediately start analyzing or criticizing ourselves. Why am I feeling this way? I shouldn't be upset about this. But this only feeds the cycle of habitual thinking. Instead of trying to solve or suppress the emotion, what if you simply observed it? Take anger, for example. The next time you feel anger rising, don't try to push it away or react to it. Instead, pause and ask yourself, where is this coming from? Observe the sensation in your body, maybe a tightening in your chest or a heat rising in your face. Notice the thoughts that accompany the anger, but don't get involved in them. Just watch. By doing this, you create a space between the emotion and your response, allowing you to break the automatic cycle of reacting. This approach applies to all emotions and thoughts. Whether it's desire, frustration, or anxiety, the key is to observe without judgment. This practice may sound simple, but it's far from easy. Our minds are so used to reacting automatically that it takes consistent effort to retrain them. In the beginning, you'll likely find yourself slipping back into old patterns, getting caught up in thoughts or emotions before you even realize it. And that's okay. The goal is not to be perfect, but to bring awareness to these moments, catching yourself a little sooner each time. This inward focus gets more instinctive with repetition. Over time, you'll start to see the first indications of an emotion or cognitive pattern before it completely develops. Rather than being overcome by rage or anxiety, you'll be able to take a step back, watch, and decide how to react, or not to react at all. The first step to mastering your consciousness is to go from reacting to watching. It empowers you to overcome obstacles in life with composure and clarity, free from the thought patterns that used to govern you. Breaking the pattern of thinking doesn't happen overnight. It calls for perseverance, patience, and the capacity to endure discomfort while sitting. However, as you work on introspection, you'll begin to find quiet and tranquil times that were before unattainable. You will discover that because you are no longer dependent on spontaneous reflexes, the outside world can't affect your inner state as much. Instead, you've learned how to stay grounded, in the moment, and centered, no matter what happens. To achieve profound inner mastery, follow this route. Chapter 7. The Power of Spiritual Surrender and Trust. In the journey toward mastering your consciousness, one of the most profound and transformative steps is learning the art of spiritual surrender. This concept may seem counterintuitive at first. After all, isn't mastery about control? Yet when it comes to true inner mastery, the most powerful form of control is often found in the act of letting go. Surrendering, whether to God, a higher power, or a spiritual teacher, allows you to release the tight grip of the ego on your mind, creating the space for transformation to occur. The ego thrives on control. It wants to be in charge, to know the answers, and to shape reality according to its own desires and fears. But this constant need for control is exhausting and ultimately futile. Life is unpredictable, and the more we try to impose control on it, the more we suffer. The ego's relentless pursuit of control keeps us in a state of mental tension, constantly reacting to the world around us. This is why spiritual surrender is such a vital practice. It helps to loosen the ego's hold on the mind, allowing us to step into a space of trust, flow, and inner peace. Surrender doesn't mean giving up or becoming passive. Rather, it's about recognizing that there are forces greater than the ego at work in our lives. It's about trusting in those forces, whether you call it God, the universe, or your own higher self, and allowing them to guide you. This trust enables the unconscious mind to open up and transform in ways that the ego would never allow. When you let go of the need to control every outcome, you make room for a deeper intelligence to emerge. This is where real growth happens. Spiritual traditions across the world emphasize the importance of surrender. In many paths, disciples place their trust in a master or teacher who guides them through their journey of self-discovery. This relationship is built on trust, not in the sense of blind faith, but in the recognition that the master can see beyond the limitations of the disciple's ego. The disciple, in surrendering their ego and trusting in the master's guidance, allows for profound transformation to take place. The same principle applies to those who place their trust in a higher power. By releasing the ego's need to control, the individual becomes open to divine wisdom, leading them toward a deeper sense of purpose and inner peace. Take the example of the Bhagavad Gita, where Arjuna, the warrior, is paralyzed by doubt and fear on the battlefield. His mind is clouded by ego-driven concerns about honor, loss, and failure. It is only when he surrenders to the guidance of Krishna, his spiritual teacher, that he is able to see beyond his limited perspective and act from a place of higher understanding. This act of surrender allows Arjuna to transcend his ego and access a deeper wisdom within himself, ultimately leading him to victory, not just on the battlefield but in mastering his own consciousness. Similarly, in many Zen Buddhist traditions, students are encouraged to surrender their preconceived notions and intellectual understanding in favor of direct experience and trust in their teacher's guidance. This surrender is not a sign of weakness, but a sign of strength, an acknowledgement that true wisdom cannot be grasped by the ego alone. It requires letting go of the ego's need to control and trusting in a process that is often beyond immediate understanding. The practice of surrender also has a transformative effect on the unconscious mind. When we try to control everything in our lives, our unconscious mind remains closed, bound by fear, anxiety, and the constant need for certainty. But when we surrender, we allow the unconscious to relax and open up, enabling deep inner healing and growth. It's like unclenching a fist that has been tightly gripping for too long. Once released, the hand is free to receive. Surrender and trust, then, are not about passively waiting for life to happen to us. They are about actively choosing to release the ego's hold on our minds and allowing a higher intelligence, whether it's spiritual, divine, or simply the wisdom of the unconscious, to guide us. This release is what leads to real mastery of consciousness. When we surrender, we stop being ruled by the fear-driven reactions of the ego, and we start living from a place of trust, flow, and peace. We become undisturbed by the events of the external world because we trust that we are being guided toward our highest good, even when we can't see the full picture. In the end, spiritual surrender is one of the most empowering practices for mastering your consciousness. It doesn't weaken you, it frees you. By letting go of the need to control every detail, you open yourself to a life that is richer, more peaceful, and aligned with your true purpose. And in this state of surrender, you find a power far greater than anything the ego could ever offer. It is the power of trust, the power of flow, and the power of inner mastery. Chapter 8. Practical Methods for Beginners. You don't have to spend hours meditating every day or escape to a mountaintop in order to master your consciousness. The most significant development actually takes place in the midst of day-to-day activities, such as walking, working, or even eating. Gaining awareness and mindfulness has the advantage of being able to be incorporated into even the most ordinary situations, transforming them into chances for personal development. There are easy, approachable techniques that can be used into daily life for novices who want to begin mastering their consciousness. Breath awareness is one of the simplest methods to start developing consciousness. Most of the time, we are unaware that our breath is constantly with us. You instantly ground yourself in the here and now when you begin to focus on your breathing. You can take a moment, no matter where you are or what you're doing, to concentrate on the feeling of air coming into and going out of your body. It's a straightforward exercise that has a significant impact on your mental health. As soon as you concentrate on your breathing, your mind starts to calm down, and you establish a barrier between yourself and any stress or feelings you may be going through. A helpful tip for beginners is to practice this during moments of transition in your day. For example, when you're about to sit down to eat, before you start the car, or right before a meeting, take 3 deep, conscious breaths. This brief pause brings you into the present, clearing the mental clutter that can cloud your awareness. Over time, this habit of returning to the breath will become second nature, and you'll find yourself less reactive to the stresses of daily life. Another powerful tool for beginners is the practice of observing your thoughts without getting caught up in them. This can be challenging at first, because we're so used to identifying with our thoughts, believing that they define us. But the truth is, thoughts are just passing phenomena, like clouds moving across the sky. They don't control you unless you give them power. One way to start observing your thoughts is to imagine that you are sitting by the side of a river, watching the thoughts flow by like leaves floating downstream. You don't need to grab onto them or push them away, just let them come and go. This practice creates a sense of distance between you and your thoughts, giving you the space to choose how you want to respond, rather than automatically reacting. These techniques, mantras, breath awareness, and thought observation, are effective yet easy strategies to begin cultivating mindfulness. However, practicing mindfulness isn't limited to peaceful sitting. When you start incorporating mindfulness into your daily routine, the real magic happens. For instance, walking. Try concentrating on the feel of each foot hitting the ground as you walk, rather than allowing your thoughts to stray. Observe your surroundings, feel the movement of your legs, and take note of the cadence of your steps. This transforms a routine stroll into a contemplative encounter that immerses you in the here and now. These practices, breath awareness, observing thoughts, and using mantras, are powerful yet simple ways to start building mindfulness. But consciousness isn't just something you practice when you're sitting quietly. The real magic happens when you begin to bring mindfulness into everyday activities. Take walking, for example. Instead of letting your mind wander while you walk, try focusing on the sensation of each foot touching the ground. Feel the movement of your legs, notice the rhythm of your steps, and pay attention to your surroundings. This turns an ordinary walk into a mindful experience that brings you fully into the present. Another excellent way to cultivate mindfulness is when eating. We frequently eat quickly in our hectic lives, hardly tasting our food as we hurry on to the next activity. However, what if you took your time and gave every bite your whole focus? Take note of your food's flavors, textures, and aromas. Experience the experience of swallowing and chewing. This small change turns eating from a chore into a chance to establish a strong connection with the here and now. The goal of integrating mindfulness into daily life is not perfection. It all comes down to making tiny, regular attempts to be present. As you continue to practice, you'll notice that your mind begins to calm down and that you react less strongly to the emotions and tension that used to bother you. By establishing a foundation of peaceful awareness, these techniques assist you in separating yourself from the craziness of the outside world. These easy, approachable actions are the first stages on the path to consciousness mastery. As you gradually incorporate mindfulness into more aspects of your life, you'll notice an increasing sense of clarity and serenity. You begin to experience things from a place of steady, peaceful awareness as the mind's incessant chatter stops. And nothing can disrupt your inner calm there, no matter how chaotic or difficult it may be. Conclusion. Mastering your consciousness is not just a lofty spiritual goal, it's the key to transforming how you experience life on a daily basis. Throughout this journey, we've explored how consciousness allows you to break free from the grip of negative emotions, habitual thought patterns, and external disturbances. By becoming more aware of your inner world and learning to redirect your energy inward, you unlock a deeper, more powerful version of yourself, one that remains calm, centered, and undisturbed by the chaos of the outside world. At the heart of this transformation is mindfulness. Whether it's through something as simple as focusing on your breath, observing your thoughts without judgment, or engaging in somatic awareness, these practices provide a practical way to ground yourself in the present moment. When you cultivate this presence, emotions like anger, stress, or desire lose their control over you. Instead of reacting impulsively or being consumed by mental chatter, you respond from a place of clarity and inner strength. This is the true essence of mastery. But this journey doesn't end with just understanding these concepts. It's about applying them in real life, where challenges and emotions are inevitable. Embrace mindfulness as a daily practice, not something reserved for meditation sessions or quiet moments. Begin with small, simple steps, like taking a few conscious breaths when you feel overwhelmed or bringing full awareness to the act of walking or eating. These small moments of presence add up, and over time, they lead to profound changes in how you engage with the world and yourself. As you continue on this path, remember that consistency is key. It's natural to face moments where you slip back into old patterns, but each time you catch yourself and refocus on your breath or body, you're strengthening your ability to remain conscious in every moment. You're creating new habits, ones that nurture mindfulness and inner peace rather than reacting to the world around you. So here's your call to action. Take what you've learned and apply it today. Start with something simple. Pause for a moment right now and take 3 deep breaths, paying full attention to the sensation of air entering and leaving your body. Let that be your first step toward deeper self-awareness. As you integrate these practices into your daily life, you'll begin to see the results, not only in how you feel, but in how you respond to life's challenges with more ease, patience, and understanding. This is the journey of mastering your consciousness. It's not about reaching a final destination, but about continually growing, becoming more aware, and living from a place of peace. The path is yours to walk, and each mindful step brings you closer to the undisturbed, empowered state of being that lies within you.